I come from earthquakes and tremors, from broken pavement to broken promises. I come from one end of the Pacific and made it to the other end of the Atlantic. Spent 10 years in between learning how to swim in order to sharpen my pen. I come from a father I no longer speak to, a mother whose language I find myself forgetting, and a sister I will never stop worrying about. I come from the subtlest of words can go a long, long way, and every photo I've taken screams thousands of them. I come from learning how to give a genuine smile, and I come from mastering how to mind my own business. I come from the color of my skin and all of its privileges, from Vincent Chin to the tears over Latasha Harlins and the trigger that was pulled when she turned her back. I come from backyard bullets and too many close calls. I've come from being called white or black, as if I am a body of appropriation, native to things that have never belonged to me. I come from a loneliness only cured by experience. I come from a generation who still feels young at heart. I never thought I'd make it this far. And despite my fair yellow skin and slanted eyes, I consider myself like most Americans. And like most Americans, I have this need to tell the whole world about my first world problems. Like most Americans, I wear brands I can barely afford. Find that egos can be measured by credit scores and tabloids make for better news than Fox or CNN. Like most Americans, I'm addicted to distractions. They often help me forget that I'm living life just to get by. Like most Americans, my ancestors immigrated to this country for a better life, only to discover that the scars of being American is to forget about your culture, but never your color. Like most Americans, I'm sometimes embarrassed by my own color. See, not all of us considered ourselves the best drivers. We steered between lanes of love and hate for both your culture and ours, where in the middle is a thin line that when you start to veer towards one side, it begins to sound just like racism. Like most Americans, I'm sick of seeing gentrification. I am what I am because of where I was raised, a blend of Eastern and hip-hop philosophy, watered by the sweat of Black excellence and Latin heart. Sniffing the dust off spotlight beams and television screens, still struggling to understand what my identity really means. I was taught to greet my elders with respect, learn to bow a full 90 degrees forward because this was always the right angle to understand humility. But I was also taught to stand straight while looking into their eyes, learn to stand with pride even when I had nothing to be proud about. So like most Americans, my true insecurities play hide and go seek, still waiting for my false confidence to count down to zero. So like a lot of Americans, I've been known to smoke pot. It helps me reset the clock and remember that life ain't so bad. I'm happy to share my stories. Just take 2 puffs and pass your stories along. Because if you've made it this far in life, then you must have been strong. Like most Americans, I believe in working hard more than I actually believe in God. I speak the language of struggle fluently in both of my native tongues. I'm the son of Korean immigrants who live for their children more than they did for themselves. So like a lot of Americans, I am still just trying to better myself. Like most Americans, I just want to be recognized for who I am and not for who I was. Like most Americans, this is where I come from. So I may seem like most Americans and even sound like most Americans, but to most Americans, I will still never look like one.